Hello, this is Dr. Dahlgren again with another lecture for English 1102. This is going to be on the short end, just so you guys know. This is basically a lecture on what's coming up this week and on some minor issues I'm seeing in your papers that you should be aware of. And that's basically what this slide is going to tell you. All right, moving on. This week, just to be aware, you have quite a bit of reading, though perhaps fewer essay assignments due, which I'm sure will be something of a relief. Most of those will be due next week before class ends. You do have 6 stories you need to chug your way through. I think they're all some of the better ones that we'll be reading this semester. I highly recommend the Octavia Butler and the Charles Stross. You will be writing on these, so be looking at what you might want to say about them as you're going through them, of course, as always. There are several chapters of digging into literature that you'll be reading, some on theory, some on research, and you will have your MLA exam, which I believe is due on Sunday. So there is a bit of stuff coming up this week I just want you to be aware of. All right. These are just some basic issues I want you to be aware of, and I kind of want to try and nip as many of these in the bud as I can in your writing. First off, I want you guys, when you're doing literary analysis, to avoid using the personal I whenever possible. This isn't a grammatical rule, but it is one that literary critics tend to observe because we're trying to make not exactly objective observations about text, but we're trying to make arguments that people can agree in. So when you say something like I believe, or I think, or I consider, or I am sure, you're really undermining your own credibility because you're kind of hedging too much. So avoid it when possible. I also want you to be aware that when you are doing in-text quotations, the grammar works as follows. You introduce the quotation, you give the quotation within quotation marks, then you have your citation afterwards. If you have given the author's name, you don't need to give the last name again. And notice that the period comes after the citation. If there is a period within the quotation, you would normally move it to the end of the citation, assuming that's where the sentence would end. You want to make it grammatically integrated into the citation. In more complex situations, such as you're citing 2 sentences, you leave you only move the last bit of punctuation to the end of the sentence. Do avoid plot summary. Some of you guys were a little bad about this. You don't want to have even a paragraph in your papers. If you have a paragraph, you've got too much. And you only want to give it when it's absolutely needed for us to have context. Now, some of what I'm seeing is you guys are giving direct quotations, or you're explaining parts of the story, but you're not explaining how this part of the story is related to your thesis, and you need to do so. Otherwise, it looks like you are just summarizing. You're not doing analysis. So make sure you've got that in there. You'll see some of those comments on your mini essays as I return them, and regular essays too. Be sure to have a thesis that should interpret the story, and should also be an argument as well. You also want to make sure most paragraphs start off with the topic sentence that relates to your thesis. So here's an example of one of those. Octavia Butler also uses aliens to convey a critique of American imperialism. What I'm often seeing are people sort of starting off with a little bit of plot, and at this moment, the aliens grab the master, and then yada, 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 yada. And then I get that analysis near the end of the paragraph, and that's an upside down paragraph. You want to make sure the analysis comes first, or the argument comes first, then we see the analysis. In fact, I'm seeing a couple of upside down papers too, where we really don't get to a thesis until the last paragraph. So those are, if you get something like that, realize that you are not alone. I also ask, and this is a very minor point, but one that you guys should get used to hearing, when you have a title to your essay, you want your title to give us a little preview of your thesis. And usually the way academic titles are is there's something catchy and interesting, and then there's a colon, and it tells you what the paper is actually about. So, hot cross buns, an analysis of food in Octavia Butler, or something like that. All right, so I have the mini essays graded, and I anticipate returning them to you later today after this video is uploaded. Long paper drafts, I suspect, will be returned to you either today or tomorrow. I have sent emails to people about some material I'm missing, so do check your emails. I will also be uploading your grades for the forums probably later today. And all of the things that I can integrate to your midterm grade, I will. Those are due for me on Wednesday, so you may see them show up. I do want you guys to know those are only tentative grades as of right now. I think many of you are doing pretty well in the class, but grades will get boosted as you do rewrites and things like that. So realize nothing is really set in stone at this point in the semester. And I told you it goes fast, and here we are. So there you go. That's all I've got for you today. This is Dr. Dahlgren saying goodbye.